Hey guys, it's Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. Nick Aldis is leaving the NWA. Yes, Nick Aldis, the man who held the NWA championship for over 1,000 days, defended it against Cody Rhodes at All In, the man who's been more closely associated with the NWA brand than any other superstar over the last 5 years, is leaving the company, and he's come to the Notsam studio to explain to me why after all this time of building this company, has he decided to walk away? What does he think about comments that have been made about him since? And most importantly, where is he going next? If you want to check out what Nick is up to now, you can check out his site, legacysupps.com, SUPPS. Promo code is NOTSAM for 10% off. All that information is in the description below. Without further ado, one of the most revealing interviews that I've done in quite some time. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Aldis.
Here we are.
Here we are. Welcome. I don't even know where to begin. Welcome to the Notsam studio. At a very interesting point in his life. Nick Aldis, first of all, thank you for making the trip up.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
What a smooth start that was. We were chit-chatting for ages and then we sit there.
Yeah, where do we... Well, Nick, what's the haps?
There's an inauspicious start to proceedings, folks.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm fine. I made a little post on my birthday, and I try not to give too many of the life coaching, preachy sort of posts, because I'm well aware and completely agree that they're utterly cringe. But I was like, there was a sort of energy around me. We went down to the Florida, Alabama coast for the weekend. Mickey takes part in this songwriters festival every year, so it always usually comes over my birthday, and they always provide us with a nice condo on the beach and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a nice, relaxed sort of way to spend my birthday, because I don't want to party. I don't like, I don't really like celebrating my birthday.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice excuse. Like, hey, we can go to the beach. It's November. It's too cold. It's cold in Tennessee now. It's still nice and down there. And but I was just sitting there, and Mickey was across the way, like doing one of her sets. And I had taken my son to the park. We'd had a nice day. We'd been to the beach, and I was sitting there smoking a cigar and just kind of enjoying the sunshine. And I thought, like, here's where I'm at with everything. I wrote about being like, they say that depression is living in the past, and anxiety is living in the future. And the hardest thing to do is to be present. And I totally understand that. I agree. It is hard to be present. And I said, today I'm just being totally present.
Yeah. Like,
just not worrying about anything else. And yes, the future is uncertain now, but it's up to you how you deal with it. You've got two choices: either be fearful of it or be excited about it. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's wide open. And it really is interesting, because regardless of what happens 20 years from now, you'll be all right. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like you'll be fine.
Right.
Eventually. But I mean, honestly, 2 months from now,
who knows? Like,
amazing things could be happening.
Well, it's kind of you to say, and I've certainly seen a lot of sentiment to that effect, but I've been around long enough to know that,
sentiment and $4 get you a cup of coffee.
Nothing is real until it's real, and look, that's not even the truth. Is let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? I
of course.
Told the world inadvertently that I had given my notice to the NWA.
Okay, so all right. First of all, was it inadvertently? Because you go like, and I do know, because I follow you on Instagram, and I got the little notification that it said you can sign up to be a subscriber. Right. I was like, I'm not signing up to be a subscriber.
I saw that too. I said, okay, that's a good idea. And I thought, well, I was planning to let my fans know that I had given my notice, but not in a nefarious way, and certainly not in a sort of negative way. I was just going to let people know, hey, I've decided to move on. Like, I've given my notice so that my final, shows with the NWA the people would know that.
Sure.
Right. That this is it. Right. But I thought, hey, this is a good opportunity to give something exclusive to my subscribers. Sure. And then a couple of days from now, I'll then let everyone else know, and then those people will go, hey, this was worth it, and it will hopefully, because the whole thing about paywall content, it's got to be stuff that people feel was worth the money. Yeah. It was my first time. I thought I had done everything right. I clicked the little button that said subscribers only, but I guess maybe because it's a reel, I don't know. I still don't know. Idea. And because this is exactly how it happened. Like I said, I was on the terrace on the condo. I decide, screw it, let's do that. Just very candid, sort of, honest. That's how I've built my fan base, is authenticity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when that was done, we had dinner reservations. And so I was like, oh, I got enough time to just go get like a little 30-minute cardio in at the fitness center. So I go do 30 minutes of cardio, and by the time I come back, I see people going like, man, that was really great what you said. And I'm going, wait a minute, I don't think he's a subscriber. Like,
I don't have.
That's my friend.
I got a lot of subscribers.
I don't think my friends are paying to see my. And I went, damn it. And I deleted it. I probably shouldn't have even bothered. I should have just left it, but whatever.
Yeah, I got it texted to me, and by the time it was texted to me, it was deleted.
Yeah. So, but look, I gave my notice. I said I gave my notice, and I sort of alluded to why. It certainly wasn't intended to be this sort of, burial of the NWA or anything like that.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? I would be burying myself.
That's the question a lot of
the
people.
Thing that I've, the thing that I've been like most heavily associated with for the last 5 years, like, and then I would turn around and go, nah, it sucks. Like, no, I didn't know. It's so.
Well, okay, so let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've done interviews before.
Yeah.
And when we did those interviews, it was from the beginning when you were doing the 10 pounds of gold sort of digital series, we'll say. And I, like most wrestling fans, thought those were great. And it was like it certainly built this NWA brand.
Right.
Which, as rich as the history was and is, was not an active brand. And it was like, oh, there's a story. And as I've said it in every medium I can possibly say it. That's what attracts me to pro wrestling, is stories.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look at there's a story being told that I can connect with. It's being shot well, it's being told well, and it's being presented in a serious manner.
Yeah.
And you coming up and doing interviews, having the title with you, wearing suits, looking like a superstar, it was all part of a bigger package. You started going and doing all kinds of shows and everything, represented at All In, which we'll talk about. But after all that, I think that's why it was so first alarming that you were leaving the NWA. You were the
I guess
superstar
it shouldn't really be
associated.
alarming. It probably wouldn't be alarming for people who had been following the product for the last year.
Mm.
Like, I'm sure that to them, for them, that couldn't have come as much of a surprise, but I understand what you're saying and appreciate it. Like, I try to avoid saying anything like this because there's no way to say it without sounding, like you're sort of self-promoting and, being egotistical. But yes, I was the sort of perennial face of the brand.
Yes.
I heard an interview. It was the interview that Triple H did with Ariel Helwani, and Ariel asked him about NXT, and how it had changed. And and it, to me, his answer is sort of mirrors how I feel in a lot of ways about the NWA. Like, it moved away from what I had, wanted it to be, right? And I, again, much in the same way, I suppose. Not now, obviously, because he's running the place now. But like at that time, he kind of had this. It seemed to me he had this mentality of, well, hey,
Triple H, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's not my. There's nothing I can do about it, you know.
Right.
And that's sort of where I got to it, you know, with the NWA. I sort of went, this what it's become now is not what I envisioned it to be, and certainly isn't what I was laying the groundwork for it to be. It didn't have the core values that I had tried to sort of maintain. Yeah,
Right.
Like, and again, this was not a knock. It was just me going, this isn't for me anymore. Right.
Right.
Like, I wanted to do an alternative wrestling brand that represented all those things about the NWA that people missed in the current product, whether it be from sort of overproduction or from, you know, a different mentality or a different style. Like, let's give them all those things, because I felt like there was a good portion of the audience, particularly in the South, who missed wrestling.
Yeah.
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 That was it. Like, I wanted it to be burgers and fries, red, white, and blue wrestling. Yeah. Because I love that stuff. But it wasn't because it was like, I hate high spots, you know, and I hate these other type of, I hate sports entertainment. No, it wasn't that. It was more like looking at it from a business point of view. Hey, there's a gap in the market, I think, for this type of product. And when I had the influence to sort of, to make that happen, like you said, we steered everything toward that vision, and it worked.
So at what point did it change? Like, at what point were you like, because obviously you were there for a while. You said the last year. So was the last year
and
sort
change,
of year and change like, okay, well I'll work here. I'll be a wrestler here. I'll take the paycheck, but it's not my thing.
Right. Summer. So 73, the first St. Louis show was, for me, was kind of like, once that business was transacted, it was never the same. And here's the thing: the first thing that anyone's going to say to that, and the first thing I'm sure Billy would say, "Oh well, because he wasn't champion anymore." Right?
Is that the show? That's the show you lost the title.
Yes,
right.
But the reality is that prior to that, I had always been the sort of steered the ship because the world title angle was obviously, like in any promotion, the world title angle should be the one that really anchors the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I had worked very hard for the last like 3 years even before that, because even when Cody and I kind of traded the belt back and forth, you know, I was still in the thick of it. And I'd worked very hard to make sure that every time I was involved in a world title angle, you know, that it was meaningful. It meant something. And because of that, that helped. I felt sort of, that was always the driving force. That was always sort of pulling the wagon. Yeah. And then obviously, when I wasn't in that picture anymore, voluntarily, I would like to add, like I was the one who said, yeah, I think it might be time for a switch here. Yeah, it might be like, here's an opportunity. Here's all these different things that are presenting themselves. St. Louis, Trevor, Harley Race, you know, wrestling at the Chase, you know, all of these opportunities presented themselves, and I went, there's a moment there, like there's a piece of business to be done there. It was kind of my baby, you know, and I hate getting into these pissing contests of this was my idea and who's, you know, but that whole angle was kind of my baby. Like, I kind of soup to nuts that whole thing. So it was, and I also knew enough to know that it's very important. It's not just about what, you know, losing the title, it's what you do after. So I had a whole thing in place. Here's what I can do next. You know, I go into this program with Tom. Tom can turn on me because I'm not his meal ticket anymore. I haven't lost the belt. You know, I lost the belt. Now I'm no use to him. You know, I'll turn babyface because I knew that was coming too. You know what I mean? I knew, sure. I could tell that there was just, at that point, there was so much goodwill and sentiment around, kind of, people knew what I had done. You know, they sort of knew, like, it was getting hard for them to continue to hate me because they kind of know he's kind of, you know,
this has been his baby.
Thing. Yeah, he QB'd this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of that. So I went, you know, I think the time is right I'll be a sympathetic character. But I lost in the middle of the ring, you know. Right. And I gave him and I sort of, you know, passed the torch. Did business. right? First thing that I came back, first thing that like all the old timers, Ricky Morton, Austin Idol, you know, these guys, Ric Flair, like first thing I said, they shook my hands and said, thank you for doing business. You know what I mean? Because that's the way.
Right.
Like I believe in that, in the way, right? It's all like there are fundamental like rules and principles of our industry, you know, and I stuck to them. I always stick to them, you know, and I think that if you look at the guys who sort of, who, you know, go out of their way to kind of endorse me, it's like, you know, Bret Hart, Harley, you know, Austin Idol, Ricky Morton, you know, Rick, Dory Funk, like, because they know that I respect the business. I love the business and I try to do it the right way.
But then, so when you lose the title, is it just because you no longer have your hands in the title picture, or did your idea never happen the way it was supposed to happen?
Basically,
all of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, it you know, like in the, you know, in the cop shows when you have the NYPD detectives and they're working a case and then the FBI come in and go, we'll take it from here.
Yeah, of course.
It was kind of like that.
The hostage negotiator.
Yeah, we'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Hey, it's my case, you know, like, and it's like, that's sort of what it was like. And that's pretty much what I got told, like in no uncertain terms, like I'm doing it. It's, you know, let me do it. Okay. And, it just, you know, you don't need me to say what it's irrelevant what I think about it, right? It's irrelevant whether I liked it or not, but the audience didn't like it.
Right.
You know? And so fast forward, we get to like the new year and they can't sell tickets. They can't sell any tickets. And so it comes back to me, like, what should we do? Like, you're the only person I trust. And I get put in this really awkward position because I'm like, well, now you're forcing me to sort of advocate for myself, which I knew could be twisted and manipulated against me at any point, right? Like,
yeah, it's hard to do that without out of context coming across like an egomaniac.
Without saying, it should be me. Yeah. Right. Hey, well, you know what you should do, brother? Put the old Strapski back on me, like, which I never said, by the way. I was presented with the question, what's different now? Why is it not working now compared to how it was? And I sort of went, you're forcing me to give you an answer that paints me in this awful light. But I'm going, well, the difference is, like, you had a world title angle that people were interested in, and now you don't. I you know what I mean? And I don't know how else to tell you that. And then, you know, that's what led to the Cardona, and then me and Cardona, and we got that going.
Yeah.
You know? And again, we got it going, and we decided to, hey, let's stretch this out. Let's get this going. Matt got hurt, and then again that was kind of me when it all kind of fell apart again. And then somewhere in there, I get the screw where, you know, suddenly it's turned into, well, you were advocating to get the belt back, and I kind of went, whoa, hold on, like, right. This is exact, and I made a point to say when we had the initial conversations to include Pat and make sure that it was never a one-on-one, so that couldn't happen. And I kind of went, this is exactly what I was afraid of. So you know what, like, I'm bowing out. You do what you want.
So when you say that you got that, okay, because I heard Billy on Busted Open recently referenced the interview that he had done previously where he talked about you politicking,
right,
but acknowledged now that was an angle that Billy was working
allegedly
when he said that. Right. Okay. So when you say that it came back at you like, oh, he was advocating for himself to be champion, do you mean it came back at you in the sense that it was part of a kind of elaborate worked shoot that Billy was doing, or behind the scenes?
No, this was something that he said to Mickey. He and Mickey had a private conversation that he didn't realize that I was privy to.
Well,
like,
she's your
wife. Yeah,
she's
right.
Your wife,
I know.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, your husband is, you know, pressuring me to put the belt back on him. And, you know, and for me, that was that day I went, this isn't going to work.
And when was that?
Sometime in the late spring, early summer.
Okay.
And that for me was the sort of moment where I went, this relationship is not going to continue. It's going to have to end. But I had I signed a 1 year contract.
So you did re-sign in January.
Yeah, I signed a 1 year. I signed a 1 year contract.
And because you had already kind of figured out, okay, this wasn't what I wanted it to be initially.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to be like,
well,
yeah, you can get me for another year?
Truthfully, they made me a nice offer with very favorable terms. One of which being that when it was time for the deal to come to an end, well, after the 1 year, if I wanted to exit the deal, which would continue on a month-to-month basis, if not, I had to give 60 days notice. If they wanted to end the agreement, they would have to give me 90 days notice. So it's just an advantage for me.
Yeah.
But they put that in, not me, and I was like, great, that's nice. I appreciate that. It was very amicable. Like, it was, as far as deals go in pro wrestling, like, obviously money-wise, it's not anything compared to like WWE or AEW. But in terms of structure, this is one of the fairest agreements probably the fairest agreement that I'd ever signed in wrestling. 1 year, like, it had bonuses factored in for the production stuff, because as you know, I started doing 10 pounds of gold, and I took on that load after Lagana left. So I'd been doing all that the year prior for no extra money.
Are you actually like on your computer editing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I made the 10 pounds of gold pieces for me and Cardona, and a few other packages and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, when that came up, I just kind of said, hey, look, I'm wearing a lot of hats here, and I'm not getting any extra for it. And all that I'm really doing is just running the risk of putting heat on myself, because you start wearing those hats, suddenly it's like your office, and you know what I mean? And you're like, I got put into a position once, like, for example, when Billy's relationship with Thunder Rosa kind of went sour, he asked me to call her and, intervene and stuff like that. And I kind of went, oh, dude, this is not my job. This is, you have to understand, like, the position you're putting me in. And it was very uncomfortable, and it was like little things like that. Just, when I started to show the cracks, where I was like, you have to know what position that puts me in, but you're basically putting me in it because you'd rather it be me than you.
Right. Now, did you end up having to? Did you take on that position, or was that the one you said I can't?
I called her to tell her that he'd asked me to call her.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah.
But pretty much said, that's one and done for me. Like, you guys can figure it out or you can't. It's not up to me, and I don't want any part of it, and I don't want you to feel like I'm influencing things in any way. Like, you know what I mean? But it was, again, one of those things where I went, wow, he was just like expected me to do that, and was like just wanted me to like jump on that grenade. I was just kind of like, that's not for me. That's not for me to do.
Things in the beginning were good between you.
Yeah.
You and Billy, like when you're doing 10 pounds of gold and the brain was going, you and Billy were great together, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Man. Yeah, no, it was all good. I mean, look, the sad truth is, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking about this.
Sure.
Basically, things got harder when he became more hands-on. Because at first he was quite hands-off, quite remote, and was, just sort of lending ideas and sort of notes here and there.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And suddenly it turned into something else. And I try to be as nice as I can about this. He's not very good at it, and I can't. I wish it wasn't the case, but again, it's not really for me to say. It's for the audience to say. And my decision to leave has come from the fact that the audience have told us. The audience have left in droves, and it's just not a good decision to be there anymore. It's not a viable option.
So you decide to leave. You decided like around spring. You're like, okay, I'm kind of done. So is the reason that you don't give notice until November because that's the length of the contract?
Yes, that was the earliest time that I would have been able to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's not like you're going and saying, I'm done, I want my release. It's saying,
no.
But I'm going to stick to this contract that I signed.
It's not a release situation.
Yeah.
No, it was a situation where, like, okay, we agreed for 1 year, But whenever I wished to end the agreement, I had to give 60 days notice. The earliest possible time that I contractually could do that was November the 2nd. So
Right.
that's the day I did it. You
Right.
know? And it was all, I was just trying to be professional about it, right?
Mhm.
I just typed up a letter and sent it and copied my agent on it. And, you know, as far as I was concerned, like that was that. When I decided to let, you know, my fans know, it was not in a pipe bomb, you know, sort of situation. It was just, hey, I just, you know, here's what's coming up next. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be next, but I'm excited for the future.
It seemed like Billy took offense, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was talking about scorched earth, and that's, like, that's how he took it.
I heard that.
I would imagine that he's talking about the fact that you said it was embarrassing,
Right.
that you were embarrassed.
Right.
I don't want to misquote you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you said the product was embarrassing to you,
Right.
which,
Look, I can't get around it. It's not, you know, I'm not saying all of it, but there was enough of it that for me didn't pass the Harley race test.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know that people will hear that and be like, Harley race, like what the hell? But what you have to understand, Harley race wanted nothing to do with the NWA, you know, because of what it had been prior, you know, because of it had some pretty dark days.
Mm-hmm.
And then he agreed to not only to be, you know, back associated with it, asked me to come to Missouri to defend the title, agreed to appear on camera talking to me about being NWA champion. And that ended up being the last interview he ever gave on camera before he passed away. That means a lot to me. And it was because of how we had presented pro wrestling consistently for 3 years at that point, or whatever it was. We had consistently presented pro wrestling in a serious and dignified way, you know. And I know people will hear dignified and pro wrestling in the same
Yeah, right.
oxymoron, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just found myself, and again, this isn't me trying to do scorched earth. I'm
Yeah.
just saying how this is what factored into my decision to give my notice. I started looking at stuff like Gags the Gimp, you know, a social distancing match where the two wrestlers can't touch each other. And, you know, on and on it went with different wacky, silly, comedy, you know, nonsensical stuff. And I said, how would I have justified this to Harley Race? Like if Harley Race had been here today, and I'd have, you know, imagine if I'd have been stood there with Harley Race, you know, and what would Harley Race say watching this, or Dory Funk, or Ric Flair, you know? And I thought I would, if I was stood here with those guys right now, I'd be kind of embarrassed. You know what I mean? Because they would look at me and go, "This is your thing." You know,
Right.
you did that, and I'd have to go, "No." And I didn't want to be in a position where I'm like, "Oh, that's not me," you know?
Right.
Because if I'm in, Sam. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know this. When we first talked, I was doing the 10 Pounds of Gold series.
Mm-hmm.
I got paid zero for those. I got paid no money for that, right? And I know that he spent a lot of time talking about, like, I gave him this money. We exchanged money, you know, for services.
You wrestled for him.
I gave you pro wrestling services in exchange for money. You
Right,
didn't
right,
give me money,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But also, for the first year that we were doing business together, my money came from third-party independent promoters. Didn't come from you at all. It came from, you know, I made all that content. You know, I wasn't getting paid for that. I was benefiting from it. That's why I'm not upset about it. But I just think I think it provides a bit of context. Like, I was very invested in building this thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing I was just going to say when you're talking about, you know, the Funks and Harley Race and stuff. There's also the element of your sweat equity that you put
100%.
in the thing that now is like, you know,
Yeah.
you feel like gone in reverse. That
Yeah,
this
I felt
is not.
betrayed. I felt betrayed.
Sure, and that you're emotional about this
I am.
thing that you created. Do you? So okay, so
Well, let me put it this way: I was emotional about it
right.
until I reached a moment somewhere in the last year where I went, you know what? It's not my show. It's not mine.
But that's a bummer.
And I went,
that's a
"This is
bummer.
and then that's when I went, you know, this is a business relationship. So I'm going to do business. And when the time comes, I will give my notice and I will no longer do business, you know. But I'd earned the right.
Had things gotten hostile a little bit between you and Billy?
We'd had some disagreements, but we'd always had disagreements. And I was always under the impression that that was a healthy discourse.
Sure.
You know, like I don't want to keep harping on this point, but it's something else I heard Triple H mention in his interview was like, which I thought was really refreshing, was he goes like, you know, I don't have to agree with everyone. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't have to agree with everybody, you know, and I don't want everyone to agree with me, right? Like sometimes some conflict being polarizing and having it can be good because you want that like healthy exchange of ideas, but it requires the fundamental thing is respect. Mm-hmm. You know, it requires a respect from the owner or, you know, executive to the talent and vice versa. And up until a point, I felt like we had that dynamic, right? Where it was kind of like, hey, this is your baby. You're the one who's putting the money into it. You've got to be happy with what's going out. But it's my living. Let's be honest here. It's not his living. It's a hobby for him, you know? And I'll refrain from saying vanity project. It's not his sole source of revenue. It's not his income.
Right.
Yeah. For him, it's a side hustle at best. It's not for me. For me, it's my, you know, I'm in the professional wrestling business first.
Right.
Yes, I have other businesses too, but the professional wrestling business is my, you know, that's my bread and butter. That's my baby and my wife's. So when I'm getting to a point where I'm being like kind of dismissed and disregarded, right? Like, just because I didn't like every single one of the, you know, these wacky things that you did, I kind of went, what, is this really about business? You know, or is this about you? You know, and more and more over the course of the last year, I kind of went, this is a show for one person.
I see.
You know, and again, and that's it, dude. Like, really, like, it's a show for one person, and that's fine if that's what he wants it to be. Just I'm not going to be part of it.
Right, because you're another person.
Yeah.
Okay, so for some clarity, first of all, the one thing that I think some people are still wondering about, and probably even more so now, because we know the last time there was tension between you and the NWA and Billy Corgan, it was an angle.
Yeah.
Right? It was a worked shoot or whatever.
I think he worked. I mean, look, you're beating around the bush, yeah? But let's call a spade a spade. He worked himself into a shoot. Again, like, I'm trying to be nice here and not, you know, say what's very obvious and, you know, for anyone who's paying attention. But his lack of experience and his naivety, you can, I forget who it was I talked to about this, but that first time when it was, you know, ostensibly an angle, when people reached out to me, I said, yes, but I'm concerned that he's working himself into a shoot. Right.
Right.
And
that happens in wrestling, right?
Yeah.
That maybe there are these underlying feelings that you have that you decide to make him into an angle.
It does when you're inexperienced.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It does when you've let this get too personal, right? And like I said, that's where I got to, where it's like, I've made mistakes in the past and you know, had failed relationships in the past with people because I let it get personal, when I shouldn't have, right? That's experience.
Yeah,
that's maturity. How you get if that's maturity, right? That's skin thickening, you know. And I've been in this business since I was 17 years old. I have pretty thick skin at this point. Right? Like, people have said the worst shit about me you can think of at some point or other. And I'm, you know, double target because I married into the business too. Right? So it's like, you get it from all sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty conditioned at this point, and I could see it coming. That's the whole thing about this. It's just so silly. It's like, number one, I hate the fact that it paints me in this light of like, complaining or, you know, having problems backstage, you know, because anyone who's been involved in the NWA, anyone knows that nobody put more sweat equity into that brand than me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm being, I don't feel like I'm overstating that, but there comes a time where you just have to go, all right, it's time to move on. It's like the old, like if this had been the territories back in the day,
Move on to another town.
it would have just, been, hey, let's finish up,
Yeah.
let's give my notice and let's finish up.
So we're saying, right, this that's happening right now, this is not a work.
Nope.
There's nothing remotely.
I hope not.
Right. As far as you know, your part of this is not a work. Okay. And the other question that's been raised is Billy saying that you are working an angle, that there is some angle that he is not aware of, that whether it's an angle to get out of your contract early, whether you have something else lined up. This was on Busted Open. He said that you're working an angle, and that it's
Did he really say that?
He said you were obviously working an angle.
Wow.
Yes. Yes, he did.
I'm not sure why I would need to get out of my contract early.
Wow, because you got someplace to go if you're working an angle.
Well, that would seem, considering how patient I'd been up to this point.
Yeah.
You don't think I would? I would think I can hold on another few weeks, but that's not. none of this is real, by the way. I don't know what to say to that. Again, just speaks to, his level of understanding.
Do you regret? So you're not working an angle?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. You're not working an angle. Okay.
See, the thing is now is that like if something were to happen where I was to suddenly show up somewhere, suddenly it's like, he was working an angle.
I knew he was lying to me the whole time. I knew he walks into my studio, he's lying to me.
Yeah.
Right, but as of today, you're not working an angle. Were you surprised that you got suspended from the NWA after you had left?
Yeah. I mean, okay. That's pretty much what I said. Okay.
Right.
Like it was like one of the wrestling media guys was like, "Can you comment on being suspended?" I went, "Huh?" Like, wait, I just gave my notice. Like,
how am I suspended? Okay.
It's kind of like to me, I just likened it to be like, when you're in like high school or grade school, it's like, I broke up with him. No, he broke up. I broke up with him.
Sure. And do you at all regret now?
Yes.
And it's only been everything. It's been like 3 days, and you're like, "What the hell has happened?" Do you regret publicly saying that you found the product embarrassing in your Instagram video? Because I think that is the sort of.
I'm sure that's the part that hurt. I'm sure that's the. Yeah. I'm sure I'm sure that's the trigger. The thing that's triggering him. Yes.
Did you do that to trigger him?
No, of course not.
Right.
No, the truth is, I understood, and again, there's no easy way to say this without coming across like an egomaniac, but I understood that a large portion of the NWA core audience evolved from being my core audience, because the NWA at first was just, I was the only product. It was myself and
you
Tim
in a
Storm.
Yeah, in a suit.
Yeah. So, and the success of that sort of approach and the effort that I put in, because to your point, it's not easy to wear a suit and like carry yourself in a certain way and present yourself in a certain way when you're about to go work in a rec center in front of like 100 people.
Sure.
That takes a different level of like courage.
Right.
To be like, I'm the man.
It's like method acting on like the level of levels.
Like, you don't think there were times where I didn't feel like a complete buffoon, thinking like this is 100 million miles away from WrestleMania.
Right.
But I also understood the whole point of the business. And again, this is like an old school thing that was driven into me by guys like Harley and Dory and other people. It starts in here. If you believe it, they believe it, right? And I built my whole sort of, my career wasn't doing shit. I had to sort of bootstrap that whole thing. We talked about that when I came in that first time.
Yeah.
Like, I had a run in TNA, but by the time I left TNA, like TNA had a stink. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, you would think that coming off of a show that was doing like 2 million viewers on Spike TV on primetime, you know, that I can write, you know, I've got to get an opportunity somewhere. And it was like, oh, TNA, you know, and I was left like, wait, what? You know, like I was left holding the bag. Right. And so I had to start from scratch. But I went, you know, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to commit to this thing, I'm going to commit. It takes commitment. So yeah, when I see guys stroll into, you know, NWA Power and, you know, march up to catering and fucking stuff their face and make another box to go later, and then guys like me and Trevor and stuff aren't getting any food because, you know, yeah, like do I start to get a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I go, you guys have no clue what it took to get us to this point? Yeah, I do. And by the same token, when I know what has resonated with the audience, because I'm the one pounding the pavement and I'm the one who are meeting these people, you know, I'm the one going to stuff, things like WrestleCade, which we'll be at, by the way. Mickey and I will be at WrestleCade.
Excellent.
You can pre-order now, Simple Ticks. But places like that, Winston-Salem, you know, a historic wrestling town, and getting grown men come up to me and shaking my hands with tears in their eyes going like, you brought back wrestling that I love. Like, and I used to watch this with my grandpa, and it just brings back all these memories of my grandpa, and it makes me so happy, and he would love this, and, you know, oh my God, I wish he was around to see this today. That means something to me. And so when I saw it get, you know, kind of betrayed, yeah, I felt betrayed too.
And time to go. I appreciate you allowing me to just question you on this, because I'm sure it's the last thing you want to do is spend all this time talking. But to me, I mean, it's just such a fascinating story, right?
I understand. I get that people find this kind of thing fascinating.
Right. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of intrigue. And it's you specifically. I mean, it's hard to think of a singular wrestler that embodied a brand more in the beginning. So the very dramatic exit story is...
And unfortunately, I think maybe that's the irony of this, is that that's probably part of the reason why as well, you know, because I'm sure that he feels betrayed on his side too, because he believes in the product he's putting out now, you know, like let's accept that. Like,
of course, that's why
he believes in the product he's putting out now. And I don't. And, you know, and so I'm sure for him, it's a difficult pill to swallow, because in his mind, I'm sure he's thinking, I invested all this time, and
there's a hurt.
Yeah. But it's like, because you know, but that's the business part of it. This isn't good for my business anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move on and see if I can do business some other way.
Well, when you look at the wrestling landscape in 2022 going into 2023, which is, I mean, I've been watching wrestling my entire life. It is bonkers is the word. I mean, so talk about unpredictable. Talk about it being a unique.
How many days between us recording this and it going out? Like 2, 3.
That's the
who knows what could have happened. Like half of this conversation could be totally irrelevant and totally lack context within 3 days.
Yeah, I have to rush to get it up. Yeah, everything we do now.
Because by the time this, can you believe that so and so stabbed someone in the dressing room? And you know,
how did you guys not bring that up?
Yeah, right. Why aren't you talking about this? Everyone's talking about it.
Have you thought about, I mean, you must have thought about that, right? Because as somebody that you are the NWA, you're the NWA World's Champion. This is what you do. This is your place in professional wrestling. When you start thinking, and you must have started this process over a year ago, that's not my place anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that was my place. And that's the way wrestling works. It's the way it's supposed to work, right? You're not, it's not a forever thing. It's this is what works now.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
100%.
Is there a space that you see Nick Aldis
it's
fitting?
I just want it to be on television.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Wrestling is very subjective. Yeah. And there are all kinds of wrestlers and there are all kinds of styles. There's a certain style that's very popular. You know, there's usually a style of the time, but ultimately, wrestling really thrives when there's a range of characters and a range of styles. Styles make fights, you know, that kind of thing. And I feel like I've honed my craft, right, of what I do well enough to be able to do it with anyone, anywhere. Period. You know,
Right.
like I've put in my 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
I've been in the business like over 15 years now, and I've wrestled all over the world. I've wrestled a who's who, and I've proven that I can sell tickets to a certain extent. You know, because like without a platform, how much can you really do, right?
Sure.
But considering what we started with, obviously, don't take all. I never use All In as an example, because that would be you know, dishonest to say 11,000 people. I didn't sell those tickets.
Right.
The event sold those tickets. We didn't. Cody and I, without question, I felt did end up being the focal point of that show.
That was the story.
Was the
the match that had a
match.
story.
Yeah. So, and I'm very grateful to the people that made that happen. But I also I held up my end of the deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so, but I will go ahead and say that 6 weeks later, we sold out Nashville Fairgrounds and set a box office record for wrestling there. And that covers quite a lot of ground when you consider who's been there.
Yeah.
You know, it was 6 weeks later, we turned around for the rematch and sold out, you know, and then like the first Ring of Honor show after all the elite guys left, Bucks, Cody, Hangman, you know, all those guys left, and SCU, all those guys left. The person they trusted to headline the next show they did center stage was me defending the title, and it was sold out. You know, the first Crockett Cup with me and Marty Skull, a couple thousand people, right? Like right before the pandemic, we were getting ready to turn around and do the rematch for that in Atlanta at the new WNBA arena, and we were 2/3 of the way to selling that place out. You know, so and Wrestling at the Chase, facilitated the return of that, booked the whole angle, and that sold out. You know, and then Mickey turns around and runs Empower the night before and sells that out. Like, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to say it, right? Like,
You figured it out.
We know what we're doing, you know, and I just go, God, I wish I had a bit more resources.
Right. Can you imagine?
I wish
Can you imagine
I
what
wish
we
I
would
had
do?
the chance to like draw money with someone bigger name than me.
Who's somebody you'd love to draw?
Oh
try?
God. Take your pick.
I mean, there's a lot, and that's kind of the beauty of where you've been the last several years. Is we haven't seen.
I
those
was in
matches.
Cardiff.
Yeah,
I was in Cardiff doing we did it was like a little fan fest thing that was the day before the big stadium show, right? And
Clash of the Castle. Yeah.
Yes, and I was there with Brett, and it was Mickey and I, Brett.
The Hitman Hart.
Who else? What other Brett is there in
true.
this business, man?
That's true.
Come on. And you know, I remember, like, just you know, it's never gonna not hurt to be that close and then be like, well,
Yes.
you know, there it goes. Like, and then watching the show and going, man, that looked
fun.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that looked fun.
You know?
That looked fun.
And look, I'd be lying if I didn't sit there and go, you don't think that me and Drew McIntyre, like, with the right promotional build in the UK, like England versus Scotland, you know, people kind of care about that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you don't think that with the right, you don't think that if the pieces were there, we could make that happen.
Well, let's talk about Cody.
That's one example.
Of course. I mean, and that's what I was saying. Like, there's so many examples because we haven't seen any of them.
People always bring up Gunther, you know, and he was very cool. Like when we started NWA Power, like I remember him going out of his way to publicly go, wow, NWA Power is a great show. And then when I met him, like somewhere at one of the, a WWE show somewhere, like, he was like, I love NWA Power, oh my God, And there was just like part of me going like,
so you see a match like Gunther versus Sheamus at that show. Whereas
How could you not?
because I mean, that's what I find. One of the things I find so fascinating is that most of us go like, "Oh my God, the torture that those men went through, the damage that they put themselves through." I mean, that was a knockdown, drag out fight. You look at that,
It'd be worth it.
Yeah,
It's worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I mean,
It
was Shakespeare.
They didn't hurt each other. You know, like that was a perfect example of the art.
Right.
Like, it's not about hurting each other,
They went home.
but
Right.
they didn't take liberties with each other. They didn't get dangerous. They didn't.
They left with a bunch of welts.
Yeah, they didn't. Right, they didn't put their careers at risk. Right, like no more than anyone does on any given night that we go out and perform.
Sure.
Let me state that. But they tore it up, and they did it in a way that was like that would have been an NWA title match anywhere in the world. You know, that could have been when I watched it, I went, that could have been
Whew.
you know, back in the day.
Woo.
That's, you know, I felt same thing when Edge and Randy Orton had their match during the pandemic. They had the greatest wrestling match. You know?
Oh yeah. I loved it. The greatest wrestling match ever.
I text Adam about that, and he was, you know, he totally gushed about it as far as like, yeah, that was what I was going for. Like, you know, that sort of NWA style kind of
Love letter to pro wrestling.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love
That's how I felt about my match with Cody. They were a love letter to the you know, Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk, or, you know, Harley Race and Ric Flair, you know, Flair and Dusty, you know, Brett and Shawn.
Yeah.
Like the pinnacle of this art form being executed to the highest level.
Which is great too, because all those guys that you just mentioned, Cody, Edge, Sheamus, Drew, like they all eat, sleep, breathe this stuff. Like like wrestling is everything to all of those people that you just mentioned. With Cody, right? You get to see him at a very interesting point because you worked that show with him, and that was obviously the show that turned in. It was the proof of concept for AEW.
Right.
Two-parter here. I'm sure you couldn't have been surprised to go like, oh, this is gonna work. Like AEW launching with Cody there and everything, this is gonna work. Were you surprised a couple of years in when Cody ends up much like you're doing with the NWA, right? Leaving that thing that he was such a part of creating and realizing it's my time to bow out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna head over to WWE.
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm. Do you get it more now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to speak to that to suggest that there was some.
Not that you have any idea. No. That's not what I'm implying.
I really don't.
Either. Yeah.
I don't want to.
I more meant the similarity between where you guys started. Yeah. I have no idea where his thing ended. You know, who knows?
The way I looked at it was, I feel like Cody looked at it the same way that I'm looking at my situation now, on a bigger scale, much more money. But he went. You know, he remembered his training from his father. He remembered he went, time to move on, time to, you know, pack up and move on to another territory.
Yeah.
That's the way I think that you could, because there's never one thing, right? Like with this situation, it's never one thing. It's a whole host of things that eventually create a situation where you go, I think it's just time to move on.
Your 10,000 hours tells you.
Yeah.
Like you can read the tea leaves now.
Right.
And go,
Your gut and your instinct for the business.
Which is scary.
Particularly when, and again, this, you know, I'm only speaking to my experience. I'm not speaking to Cody's relationship with Tony Khan. But if your instinct is much stronger than the other person's, right? Like if you kind of know from being around it long enough, you kind of know, okay, I can see where this is heading. Like, because it's not necessarily not always just about business. Sometimes it's about emerging dynamics between people, you know, and like that's certainly a factor in my situation. Like new personalities have been introduced into the equation and they change the chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Like people get in his ear and they say this and that. And next thing you know, he's communicating less and you're communicating less. And now you're mistrusting this person and that person over there is sticking their nose in, or you think that they are, and so now you start behaving differently around them, and he feels like you're being, different with him, and suddenly and it all comes down to pride and a lack of communication. It's always the same stuff. It's always pride and lack of communication.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody has to go, all right, time to go.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
And I guess I think I thought that what Cody pulled off was one of the most impressive,
Incredible
feats.
Incredible. Coming back as
business.
the American Nightmare. When that, I mean, dude, when that
All In was a proof of concept for AEW, but Cody in AEW was a proof of concept for Cody in WWE.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I think that's 100% right. I mean, I can't tell you, like,
I think he always had one eye on being back there and going, okay, if you need me to go and show you what this is, I'll go fucking show you.
I'm going to help start a national promotion so
Which,
you can see that I can headline
again,
a national promotion.
Not that I'm comparing the same, but the same kind of thing. Like nobody has presented to me on a piece of paper like who I am now. Like the look, the ring attire, the entrance music, the style of the entrance, the whole thing with me, the whole package. It's I've crafted it over the last couple of years, same way that he did. And in many ways it's the same thing. It's like, was I fully invested in the NWA, trying to build the NWA into being a nationwide, a national promotion? Like, of course I was. I wouldn't have put the amount of time in that I did if I wasn't. But at the same time, I was also using it as a platform to present my product to the marketplace.
Sure.
It's a shop window.
Sure. We were talking about worked shoots and the dangers of worked shoots and all of that earlier.
Terrible idea.
And also, well, generally speaking, but every now and then they get pulled off. Okay. What do you think of...
Do they, though?
Well, I would look at...
Here's my question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, and I don't want to cut you off.
No, please.
Here's the worked shoot just in and of itself is an oxymoron because it's all supposed to be a shoot.
So you're saying that a worked shoot points out the work.
Everything is, yes.
Right.
Everything is supposed to convince people to suspend their disbelief. Yeah.
Right.
All angles should be realistic.
Well, I guess it's taking into account the hardcore wrestling fan,
that people
right?
Understand that people understand, or at least for the most part, think they understand the inner workings of the business and how the business works. But again, my question to that is, does it work for that angle? But does it work for the whole business? Does it work for the whole show? Because because let's say, that's all anyone's talking about. Okay, that might be a problem there.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles on this show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that better be leading to something that's money. Otherwise, what's the point of it? Which is usually my hang up with the whole concept.
What's it leading to?
Right. Is the payoff big enough and worth it for the potential damage?
Somebody who I think one could argue has perfected that art, which is a rare thing, is MJF.
Yes.
What do you think of MJF?
He's a fantastic talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not?
Right.
Anyone who knows, I feel like anyone who knows what they're talking about knows.
Right.
Like
yeah, the level of sort of jealousy and bitterness to deny that would be off the chart.
Right. Man, I don't see it. No, you do. Yeah. Everyone does. I do think that you do have to be careful with characters like that, because it can become problematic to not problematic. That's not the right word. It can become difficult to place them in a way that's beneficial for everyone.
Sure.
Like it's NWO syndrome a little bit. Like the NWO was red hot and did a lot and was very important to WCW. But at the same time, you're kind of like, you're on this very fast downhill slope, like skiing, and suddenly it's like, this is great. I'm going so fast and this is incredible. And the adrenaline's off the charts. What happens if I want to stop? Like, how do I change direction? Like, how do I get anyone else in this? It's not impossible, but it is difficult.
Right.
It's difficult to do.
Well,
because you can't sacrifice baby faces. You can't sacrifice your protagonists,
Right.
to keep feeding this beast without running the potential of harming them, because now they go, well, wait, he's gets to say and do whatever he wants, and totally eviscerate me, but I'm limited in what I can say in return,
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's almost like the Wardlow situation, right? Where
the
it's
dynamic in wrestling is supposed to be like, I loved what Arn Anderson said about like baby faces sell merch, heel sell tickets, right?
Yes.
So like, we were talking in the car about a babyface territory and a heel territory,
right?
And how when I was sort of lending my input in the NWA, he was unaware of what that meant, and I kind of had to explain. So a babyface territory would be, the WWF in the heyday, or WWF with Bruno.
Mm-hmm.
He was the draw. Everybody loved him. He sold out the Garden, however many times. So now your objective is, okay, I have to maintain that, right? Because he's the draw. So people are paying to see Bruno and they love him. Okay, so we got to bring in some heels. You got to heat them up. You got to have them beat credible guys on their way to Bruno and promise, I'm going to beat Bruno, and get in Bruno's face and say, I'm going to be the one to end this Bruno streak. I'm going to be the one to dethrone him. Blah blah blah, and build it up to, and then people, I want to see Bruno get rid of this guy, and he would.
Right.
A heel territory is if the draw, being like Jim Crockett Promotions,
mm-hmm.
Flair is the draw. Flair is the guy who sells the most tickets. He's a bad guy. He's an antagonist. So now people are kind of going, I hate this guy. He thinks he's so good. He thinks he's better than me, but it's entertaining to watch. That's the perfect.
Right.
Because what Flair did was he let people beat the shit out of him. Right?
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat tears off all his clothes, or Ricky Morton tears off all his clothes, and beats his ass all over the studio, and humiliates Rick and embarrasses him, because that's what people are paying to see.
Yeah.
I want to see someone knock this guy down a peg or two. Where it can get difficult is if people are like, I want to see Ric Flair win. Right?
Right.
Because now the protagonist, now you're basically going, hey, we need you to go ahead and be a sacrificial lamb here.
It's almost what I feel like has happened with the Jake Paul boxing thing, where I feel like you run the risk of diminished returns when you realize he's going to win, right? Because you're paying to see him lose.
Right.
You're paying to go like, there's no way he can beat that MMA fighter. There's no way he can beat that athlete. And then once this sort of collective realization is, oh, he's actually pretty good at boxing.
Yeah.
He's probably going to win.
Right.
That's not really what I'm here to see.
Yeah, and look, it's obviously worked.
So far, it's been amazing.
Yeah. It's worked incredibly well, right?
And by the way, and I'm sure, and this is okay.
I'd say the only difference to that is that in that situation, number one is, really the fundamental issue that makes it different is that it's one individual. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He only has to be interested in the Jake Paul business.
Right.
If Jake Paul was under contract to a one promotion, who also was trying to establish and build value in a whole host of,
sure,
that would be a different story.
Sure, totally.
100%. Wrestling is different in that, and that's why a lot of people think they can book.
Yeah,
wrestling booking is not easy because it's
everybody's like all the
spinning plates.
Yeah.
This one's over here is about to fall. Oh, I got to keep this one going over here, and that's basically wrestling booking in a nutshell.
So you're looking in at, first of all, what did you think of the Roman Reigns Logan Paul match? Did you see it? Have you seen it?
Incredible. So, I mean, you can't take anything away from it. What an incredible.
I mean, wild, right?
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Yeah,
it's a testament. It's a testament to him, and it's a testament to the WWE.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How they've been able to train that and coach that.
Yeah,
and execute.
Yeah,
that's not easy.
You're talking about seeing Gunther and Sheamus, and going like, yeah, I could be in there.
I would love to.
Love to.
Right.
Love to. I would love the
me.
opportunity. Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Right.
But what do you think when you see something? I feel like one of the stories of the year has been right under everyone's nose. Sami Zayn just completely redefining how to succeed at the highest levels, to the point that the unthinkable happens, and Jim Cornette is over here going like, you know what? Sami Zayn is the greatest thing on television.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of Sami Zayn?
He's a world-class performer.
Yeah.
Like, again, there's no, what else is there to say? He's a world-class performer. Like, wrestling is about accentuating your strengths. I've talked in a couple of interviews recently about how, like I just wrestled up in Calgary, you know, for dungeon wrestling, which is kind of the new incarnation of Stampede wrestling, right?
Awesome.
And for Brett, and Brett booked me to wrestle the match, and I'm wrestling Harry Smith, and then Brett says, "I want you to win the title." I mean, I can't. You know, it's the Stu Hart title. It's got like, you know, it's the Stu Hart Heritage. I was so flattered and, you know, thrilled by that. And I want to, you know, and now like I've taken it on as a sort of personal challenge. Like, I want to see if I can help get that thing going up there for them, because it's a Victoria Pavilion in Calgary, you know, like, and we had a pretty good house, and like Harry and I had great heat. Like, we had them rocking at the end, and it was like, and I came back and it's like Brett standing there going, "That was awesome. That was so good," you know. And I'm going, I want to build that. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but the thing with the business is, like, you're always looking at it. I mean, for me anyway, I'm always looking at it in that sense of like, where can I take this? You know?
Yeah.
What did you ask me? I can't remember what we were talking
Sami
about now.
Zayn.
Oh, yeah. So, but one of the reasons why that went so well, the thing in Calgary, was because it was like, for the first time in ages, I got to be a full-on heel.
Right.
I got to be, because I've been kind of a babyface, right,
Sure.
in the NWA. Because like I said, it just evolved to a point where it was kind of like, people were like, "We like you because we know you helped kind of," you know.
Yeah, there's an appreciation.
Right. Yeah,
like,
yeah. And
you
so
know.
I ended up being sort of, and it's not my, and here's the thing, this is what I was getting to. I know what my strengths are. You know what I mean? I know I lend myself best to. I lend myself best to being an antagonist. Like, to me, I've always tried to be the ultimate antagonist. Like, I'm aware of the fact that, well, number one, being British in America is always going to, for the most part, on television, immediately going to put me in a certain vibe with a lot of the audience, especially casual audience. So, oh, who's this British guy? You know, like I want someone to slap his face, right?
Of course. Yeah, you got the accent.
Okay, cool. Like, how do we make money with that?
Right.
Instead of, well, I saw myself as this other thing. No, it doesn't matter what you know what I mean? Yeah. I tried not, first of all, I tried not to be like that. When when I was a kid, yeah, did I envision myself being the baby face and winning the title? Of course I did. But in the long run, even early on, around 2000 was when I really started to sort of formulate this idea, like, I think I want to do this. And a lot of that was watching Rock and Triple H.
Yeah.
But there was part of me that was like, I jumped out of my seat when Rock won the title, but at the same time before, I was kind of like, he's kind of cool. Like, this Triple H is kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
of
course.
And then as I, started to get into the business, my instinct was always toward being that guy.
Not Triple H, the game.
Being the heel, being being the guy manipulating people's emotions and, kind of driving the car. And I think a lot of that, just, you got to have self-awareness. You got to know who you are and how people see you, because we're not saying judge a book by its cover, but people do. Yeah.
Sure.
So with Sami Zayn, people see him in a certain way because of how he looks and because of how he talks and how he presents himself. People see him in a certain way, and he's totally embraced it and embellished it to a point where now it's this totally compelling character.
Yeah.
The same way, like, Roman has now taken who he is.
Yes.
Instead of trying to be like happy guy,
Yeah.
I'm the, he's like, well, fuck all of you, I'm the man. Right.
You know what
and everyone's like, yeah.
I guess you are.
Yeah.
There's the two things that I love about the Roman Reigns character transformation. Number one is when fans boo him, he acknowledges that he's getting booed, and he shows his face to be frustrated.
Imagine that.
Why would you boo me?
Right.
Why? He doesn't have to pretend like, it's no
Yeah,
problem.
right,
It's
right.
okay. The other thing is, and this is I think something that popped up with John Cena too, is that he wins every
lot.
match, right?
A lot.
And
yeah.
when you win every match and you continue to show up with humility, at some point the audience goes, we see what you're doing. You're winning every match. Will you please just tell me that you're aware that you're winning all the time?
Right.
And so when Roman comes back and he goes, there is nobody in this industry that's playing on my level. It's like we've been waiting. Yes, thank you for saying it.
What is the main quality that a successful character or angle has in wrestling? It's that people live vicariously through it.
Sure.
And what is the one thing that most people in life don't get to do is give zero fucks. You know what I mean?
Everybody wants to.
Everybody wants to be in a position where they just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? So, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, like, you know what I mean? Different people at different points. You could look at the transition from babyface Shawn Michaels to DX Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
Same thing. I've given up caring what you think.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone went, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You can go to like literally Survivor Series 96 when the Garden is turning on him and he turns back on them.
And suddenly you go, oh, I do like him now.
Right. Because he's really reacting to like that's how I'd be. Screw that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to live vicariously through so there's and that's not the only relatable, quality, but it's certainly an alpha one.
Yeah.
And again, call me crazy, but I think the wrestling business tends to work best when it's built around alpha males. You know what I mean?
Have you thought about that? Like, I mean, I'm sure you'd be a fool if you were in this industry and haven't said, man, I'd love to tell a story with Roman Reigns right now.
You're right. Sign me up.
Right. Yeah. Dumb question.
Where do I sign? Yeah.
What about this? Okay. And this is maybe the last hypothetical I'll throw at you, because this is something that popped in my mind last night. You said you wanted to wrestle on TV. What if what if it were presented to you? We'd like you to come to NXT, not join our developmental system, but come to NXT.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I think it'd be the idea of
it's not about the platform. Well, it is, but it's about the opportunity.
I mean, and yeah, because NXT is still
right.
an incredible platform.
Right. What I'm saying is, it's about just having a stage. It's just about having a platform to ply my trade.
And can you imagine? Can you imagine somebody who was that immature kid who thought he knew it all, who had to go through everything that you had to go through and scratch and claw for 15 years to finally acquire the knowledge that you've acquired, going back into this land full of 20-somethings that don't want to listen to you? I mean, story.
But the thing is, they don't need to listen to me.
No.
I mean, listen to Shawn Michaels, which is not hard to do.
Yeah. But I mean, character-wise.
Oh, yeah.
That's more what I'm like the story that we're telling. Of course, you're not going in there to run the. I mean, your character
think about
walking
this.
in.
How about this one? Try this one on for size. See, I've done a lot with Scott Steiner. So the idea that like now it's sort of evolves to his nephew. That's kind of the
next generation.
Interesting sort of dynamic, because a lot of variables you could play with there.
I wouldn't mind jumping on a pre-show and hyping up Nick Aldis versus Braun Breaker. I'm not going to lie to you.
I wouldn't mind that either.
What is your favorite thing when you look back at your time in the NWA? What's your favorite thing? Your favorite match? Your favorite angle? What is the thing that you look back on and you go, that was awesome?
Well, it's pretty hard to look beyond the angle with Cody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lightning in a bottle situation.
Especially because you nailed it, right?
Right.
I feel like that was one of those angles that like...
And there was no... multi-million dollar company, marketing team and a creative team and a promotional machine sort of, carefully crafting all this, was two guys using our instincts. Like, well, what about this? Yeah, all right. What about this? All right, this will be money. Yeah, let's build it. Okay, cool. We know what the business is at the end. That's easy. The work is done before the bell rings.
Right.
And it was done to such a level that we got one of those, unicorn sort of moments in wrestling where we had like the whole place popped and standing before we even touched. Like that's to me is like a unicorn kind of moment. They're like, you can't manufacture that. You can't plan for it. You can't expect it. You can hope for it. And I think we've talked about it. He and I, we both felt like I think we might get this. I think this might happen. But neither one of us spoke it, for fear of tempting fate, right? But we both afterwards, we both kind of went. We both knew that was coming. We kind of knew we had him, right?
Yeah.
There's no greater feeling in wrestling than when you go, we had him, we got him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the business you're in.
Yeah.
Like,
this is the story. This is the story that we're telling.
We got him.
And everybody is like,
Right.
This is the story we're hearing. This is the story we're responding to.
Yeah, yeah. Like the work is done before the bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now comes the fun part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now what we have, like, it's so much easier if you can get it done before the bell because now there's less pressure on you to execute.
Right.
Like now all you've got to do now all you have to do is not fuck it up. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to going out cold and now you've got to go from A to B to C to D and grab them along the way, and then hopefully by the end of that work, they're into it. But if you can start at like G, or N,
Yeah.
like whatever's in the middle, if you can start there and they're already halfway home with you, it's like, all right, cool. Now what we have to do is just guide this sucker into the dock,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
I feel like I merged two analogies there because I
Guide
was
this
flying a plane, but then I was into a dock, which is a ship.
no, it's a water plane. It's one of those like, with the skis on the bottom. Yeah. And it's also, I feel like a moment where it's like you as an individual could say like, yeah, I
Right.
did that. Cause like
It was very validating for me.
you leave TNA with a stink.
Ice cold.
Ice cold. You walk into All In and Cody is white hot.
Yeah.
Cody and the Bucks and Kenny are
Yeah.
white hot. They
Absolutely.
are. I mean,
No denying that.
and then you go, well, I'm going to step up and I'm going to be the one.
The real pressure of that situation was on me
right.
to ascend to Cody's level
Because you have to,
in terms of perception.
you have to stand in the ring and be
Yes.
perceived as two equals.
We couldn't walk into that match, even though everybody in the building wanted to see that moment. They knew that, wouldn't it be amazing to see Cody Rhodes beat this guy and win the 10 pounds of gold for his father? But
But they believe.
if I hadn't, but if I'd have just walked in like some schlub and they go, well, okay, yeah, it would have been a coronation,
Yeah.
not Rocky. It wouldn't have been a contest of like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Right.
Yeah,
because Aldis is the NWA. He is
Right.
the NWA champion. He's not.
And we'd done like the weigh-ins where, look, I'm not afraid to say it. I knew what that was going to be. Cody was the one who wanted to do weigh-ins, and I thought it was a good idea. It helps, help that big fight feel and everything. But there was part of me that's like, he wants a pose down, because he'd worked hard. He'd dropped some weight, and I could, and I was like, all right, I'll see you there. And I did the same thing, because we have that thing where it's like we are very, we're not buddies, we're not close friends, but we're friendly. When I respect him, a huge amount, and I'd like to think he respects me. But we embrace that little bit of like competitiveness with each other. You know what I mean?
great.
Like we
Yeah.
brought out the best in each other. Like, funny story, that day when we did the weigh-in, right? It's the day before. A guy in Chicago who's like a luxury car dealer had contacted me and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing, but I'm a huge fan. like, can't wait to see this match with you and Cody and da da da. He goes, hey, look, I have a luxury car dealership. I'd be happy to lend you whatever you want for the weekend. He's like, and I said, well, cool. I've got like a couple of my friends coming. Like Sam came to be part of the entourage, and like Shannon Moore and a couple of my buddies. And he was like, cool, I'll send a couple of cars over. He sent a Bentley and a G-Wagon. Woo! So I'm cruising around in a Bentley all weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends are cruising around in the G-Wagon. So we rocked up to the hotel to do the weigh-in and stuff. And Davari was in the car with me, one of my best friends, used to be my roommate. So we were in the Bentley. But I've been signing at StarCast, and then we had to rush back and get ready for this and for the weigh-in and whatnot. Starving on the way to think there's a Wendy's. So we pull the Bentley all around the Wendy's. And because I knew, and again, this is like, I'm not betraying Cody's trust by saying, because he never out and out said this, but I always got the sense that like I felt like he wanted this to be a little bit of a pose down. Like I want to show how ripped I got and whatever. And I dropped about 10 pounds as well.
Wow.
So I'd kind of got in pretty good shape as well. So I grabbed a cheeseburger at the drive-thru and rocked up in the Bentley, and then walked in like before the way and just chowing down on this triple cheeseburger. And I want Cody's like, oh, come on, like, because he knew I was doing it, but it was like, that's what I mean. We did little things like that to sort of, not to like mess with each other in a nefarious, like horrible way, but just in that like,
we're competing.
Hey buddy, and he's like, God damn it.
I love it.
Like, and I know that he had texted like Dave and, my friend, a couple of our mutual friends, been like, have you seen Nick? What kind of shape's he in? Like just like little stuff like that, But I've only had that with one guy, really. You know what I mean? At that sort of level of like,
and I'm sure it's a rare thing.
High level execution and the connection, right? Like that it got with the audience and and it wasn't a one-off, because we proved that when we turned around in 6 weeks' time and sold out again. And obviously not. It wouldn't. We wouldn't have sold out 10,000, but we probably could have done that building once over again. Yeah. And that's we had him on that one too, and we did. Actually, the second match for me was I thought was way better than the match in Chicago. But to that point, the match in Chicago only needed to be a certain amount.
Story had been told.
That's why I loved working with him, because we were business.
Yeah.
We could have gone, let's do a million false finishes and, let's kick out of this and kick out, but we didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Because we immediately were going like, maybe we can do a trilogy, Yeah. That was the intent. And then obviously, things happened with, he left Ring of Honor and the, obviously everything I've then learned of impending AEW.
Sure.
But we had talked originally about doing a trilogy. Like we had talked about doing like, okay, let's do this one in Chicago, then Nashville, and then we'll do the third one in London, which was, and unfortunately we never got to do that.
Well, I mean, there's still time for another Aldis Rhodes match, isn't there?
I would hope so.
I would think so.
I think there's time for more than one.
Life is long.
Hey, man.
Life is long and wrestling is long.
I got a mortgage.
That's right. We can do it here. We can do it there. We can do it everywhere.
I'll be here again in 20. Hey, there's still time. 20 years. There's still time, brother.
Well, man, you got a few weeks off.
Yeah, I
You'd
guess.
be hanging.
Yeah.
Just chilling.
I'll be at WrestleCade.
You'll be at WrestleCade.
I'll be at WrestleCade. Yeah.
What is the best way? Are you still going to attempt an Instagram subscription service? Or
you can subscribe.
Okay.
Oh, it's there.
I mean, I don't know what.
You'll get exclusive pictures until I can figure out how to do exclusive videos.
Yeah, because I was about to say, if the wildness that we're seeing is escaping onto the public platform, I can't imagine what's going to be behind that paywall.
Exactly. There's only one way to find out. Pay up that $4.99.
All right, well, subscribe to all of Nick Aldis's social media accounts, and I mean, man, it's going to be very, very interesting heading into 2023 with Nick Aldis on the open market. That's one you've been so associated with a brand.
I hope so.
For so long.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are many guys like you out there with the look that you have, the pedigree that you have, and the skill set that you have that are available, right? Like, Oh, I forgot. He's been tied
Sure.
up with this thing for so long. I forgot.
Again, you're sort of teeing me up to say something braggadocious, but sure.
Well, that's my perception of it, okay?
Thank you.
And maybe it's just because I don't have any of those things that I just listed, but I see them in you, and I really appreciate you coming up here.
I'll just say this: I feel like I've put in my hours. You know what I mean? I've paid my dues, and I feel like if there was an opportunity now, I wouldn't let anybody down.
Yeah, I think that's all anybody can ask. I think that's a very nice way to send everybody on their way. I appreciate you coming all the way up here, jumping in the Notsam studio, telling your story, and the next time there's breaking news, you'll have to come back.
We'll see.
For sure, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, buddy.